It's the pre-market ritual you never knew you needed. Get ready to Gap and Go with the KWEB Trading Institute.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Gap and Go. Last 2 weeks we were talking about uncertainty coming from tariffs. Actually, a lot of surprising, well, not really surprising, but a lot more noise coming from that end. So what did we miss? We missed Canada, we missed Mexico. Things were done overnight. Additional tariffs coming from steel, aluminum, etc. Also, plus increased tariffs from China. But one thing that has happened, despite all the tariffs, is that the dollar hasn't rallied so much. There was a scare 2 weeks ago in the rally, and then all of a sudden you had your 1 day reversal. So things are priced in, things not priced in. Jason, maybe you can share your thoughts first on what's happening from a macro perspective, then we can go from there.
Well, para for me in a nutshell, MAGA Trump is priced in na talaga. Diba? So para for me, that's a good news actually, diba? After the inauguration, he said what he wanted to say. Then if you look at bond yields, dollar, they stabilized already. And actually, parang tingin ko, US stocks are also connected. That's why parang we're seeing some volatility, some profit taking right now, di ba? Kasi if you remember, MAGA boost din yan yung US market Diba? And I feel like in US stocks, parang everything's priced in for now. Diba? You have the MAGA, you have the good earnings priced in already. Diba? The Mag 7 bill, hindi masyado nag-react after earnings. And then you have the Fed last night, nothing new. But sabi lang niya, no rush to lower interest rates. Diba? So from 100 basis points this year, we're down to 25 basis points. Diba? So parang, yeah, I feel like everything's priced in and we're going into this parang digestion phase. And I think we have to be ready for rotation. Where will the money flow next? Diba?
Surprising statement, so like for the month of January, we've seen $3.3 billion in equity inflow in the US. We'll talk about China later because China had, I think, $5 billion in inflow last month. But my point being here is that, we talked a lot of things about being priced in with regards to the US. And obviously we're going through some level of duration, right? So you think things are going to be range bound here or still going to head lower? Well, I mean, what's the... And honestly, I don't know which camp are we in also right now. So that's the reason why I'm asking.
I'm in the sideways camp. So parang I don't see yung big weakness like last year. But of course, things can change very fast. But for now, my assumption is parang sideways near that area. Parang big picture kasi, I think parang ano pa rin undeniably, US quote-unquote exceptionalism,
And funny part is, some many of the Mag 7 last week came out posting, I think 12%, 13% growth, for example, like with Google, Microsoft, still double digit. I think maybe markets were expecting a little bit higher teens on that end. And all of them gapped down. In fact, I think the decline in S&P earnings, sorry, not wrong word. The increase in S&P earnings is on a downward pace. So I think the last 3 quarters are around 12 to 13%. I think this quarter for the big tech, it was sitting at 10.5. So it's still growing. It's just growing at a slower pace. And I assume that's the recalibration that the market is going through right now. So everybody's trying to look for a blowout earnings type of situation, for example, like what happened to Meta, where earnings grew 40+%. Brian, anything underneath you're seeing?
A lot of things. So we talked about 2 weeks ago that all of this uncertainty, as you said, it's coming in our way. Where you'll see your Mag 7, ano na lang natira, Meta and your Amazon probably. Your Tesla's correcting. So you'll see that the Mag 7 chart, which is MAGS, is weaker than your S&P, diba? So you should probably expect that parang money is moving from at least some of it going to other issues. I try to look for it. Well, there are still strong ones, yung mga theme issues mo, yung mga robotics mo. Yeah, yung robotics mo, yung SERV, diba? Yung serve. There are a few that moves like this, eh. Yung mga satellite issues, like yung Black Sky, recently yung BKSY. Yung mga BBAI mo, yan, yung mga Palantir Junior ang tawag nila dito, eh. Mga government contract guys, eh. Those things, aside from that, mga earnings drift na surprisingly Philip Morris. So we discussed actually yesterday, Philip Morris. PM, only because there's a new trend now. Dito medyo alpha, alpha story. There's a new trend now where kids are shifting from cigarettes to from vape to what's this? Nicotine patches. Apparently this one's growing 50%.
Kids? Or are we old na?
Actually, even adults, even our
Even adults. So those things. So that's what I see now. It's either earnings drift kasi earnings season. Like yung, yeah, this one, PM and Pins, example. Spotify, yung mga earnings drift. That's what I see now.
The market has been very efficient in this regard. Diba? Lahat ng good earnings, blowout earnings, things coming out of surprise continues to trend higher than everything else. Not. And maybe we should discuss this also from a macro perspective. You know, there's really two schools of thought happening right now with the 10-year, right? So one side is you have the Trump administration really wanting lower interest rates.
Yes.
So that they can fuel their spending. So one part of that spending is trying to also cut down that deficit so that they have probably more things to spend on. That's the reason why what has actually caught me as a surprise is your DOGE, right? And a lot of things were, you know, are they really going to be able to do it? Are they really going to be able to pull things out? News coming from them, they've cut spending from already from to $1 billion per day, which is close to $365 billion. And that $1 billion per day is supposed to, the target is really $4 billion, which is 1.3 trillion in deficit. And that alone is more than enough to fuel their spending.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm surprised on how fast and how I was very skeptical, to be honest, that they would be able to do it. But, you know, to be fair, for them to move at this accelerated pace to cut down $1 billion in spending, I assume that's the reason why, you know, concerns with regard to how much is supposed to be refinanced this year? 10 trillion?
Yeah, mga 30%.
30% then this year, diba? So 30% that refinancing is supposed to happen this year. And I assume the reason why is that because they want the interest rates to be as low as they can before they refinance that, right? So that's my assumption, right? Similar to what happened to the Philippines last year, because they need to raise money for the spending. That's the reason why they had to cut RR whatsoever, just to bring down interest. And I don't know if that's going to be the same situation we will see here also in the United States. Because who wants to pay expense and borrowing costs, diba? So you find a way to bring down inflation, tipid muna sa spending, right? And then at the bottom, then we can start deploying more, diba? So, and raising more capital at that, which from a financial perspective, from a business perspective, that actually makes a lot of sense. So,
I think Ray Dalio said it best if you saw his interview with David Friedberg. Sabi, this is their it's the chance of the US to really do all what they need to do when the market is strong. So, ngayon nila gagawin yan. Kasi hindi nila magagawa to when markets are tanking. So this is their chance. And whatever they're doing now, yung mga DOGE na yan, cutting spending. All these things are pointing to actually increasing the supply of dollar in the market,
Right.
which
Right.
means really setting the market for lower dollar and lower rates, di ba? As you said, is all because they want to, before they refinance, they want the rates to be lower. So all these things that they're doing, I'm surprised actually. I was expecting when they started doing the Doge thing, I was expecting the dollar to really shoot up and the rates to really shoot up. Because they didn't cut rates first before they did that. But surprisingly, the market's reacting not that way. Parang ano siya, it's 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 acting in a way, especially the dollar, where it's supposed to intended to yung lower eh. Hindi siya
Yeah,
nag-shoot
yeah.
up.
Although,
Hmm.
actually, parang tingin ko now, I think the impact is still limited in the market. Yung narinig ko kay Ray Dalio, right? They have to cut it at 3% also, yung deficit.
Oo.
So
That's
parang half. So
number.
imbis na 2 trillion, 1 trillion na lang. So I guess that's the number that we have to watch out for, diba? But
Parang it's good enough eh, no? Diba? That's good enough.
1
Or being
trillion.
done today, right? But that's the okay. That's I assume what the market is trying to price in today. At the other hand, inflationary pressure is the other part of the equation, right? Tariffs, more noise coming from this end. How big of a tariffs are we going to see? Are we going to see more? And these are things that, that's the uncertainty that everyone doesn't know. I mean, one day you've had 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada, the next day tinanggal, right? Because they came to some agreement. And let's be honest, tariffs will, for some way, some form, will cause inflation because it's going to make things more expensive for the consumer, right? So that's the things that, markets are, having, I wouldn't say troublesome, but, these are things that what's priced in, what's not priced in. And I think those are the two schools of thought that's being argued right now by the markets.
I think he's using the tariff as to leverage to deal for something else. Eh. It's not really parang sometimes like yung
And,
sa Canada.
and is he wrong?
Parang he just used it
Yeah.
for the border. Hindi ba?
I mean, for me, if you ask me, is he wrong? He's not wrong.
Yeah, he's actually, he's correct in doing those
They're
things.
penalizing us, but if you look at it from their standpoint, how can you, right, not see it? I mean, for us, they're doing just right for what's right for their country,
What's right for them, which is true, which is correct.
which is penalizing us. But
I think the question, the debate is this tariffs really inflationary? I think yun yung, kasi at the onset, if you look at it, it really is. Parang you're just going to pass the cost to the consumers. But from what they're saying, parang they want, parang it's a leverage for them to ask those manufacturers to build in the US. Parang ganun eh. Build in the US, create jobs, and eventually increase competition, so lower prices.
Yeah. So,
I think that's a longer picture if it works.
I think for me, going into this full-blown trade war, where you're killing your partners talaga. Parang to me, it's just too destructive. Parang kasi yung biggest constraint to Trump doing that is really the bond market eh. Kasi yun nga eh.
Sabi ng bar market, hindi pa pwede.
So we talked about all this refinancing stuff, tapos full tariffs, and it's so easy to conclude that inflation is going to accelerate, diba, if he does that. Parang tingin ko, he is aware of that naman eh.
Yeah, that remains to be seen on the effect on the 10-year because I'm also expecting that yung full-blown tariffs tapos probably will shoot up the interest rates, the 10-year. But so far, parang subdued eh. So wait and see, if what's really going to.
Yeah. Oh. So I hope we're right. Baka may sabihin na naman next week eh.
Yeah, and that's the reason why you're seeing so much volatility in the market today. Okay, but let's just fast forward really quick because the real winner so far this year China. Actually, we talked about China. I think 2 weeks ago, even a little bit before that, right? Is it going to rally? Is this it? Yes, there's still economic problems, but again, you're still sitting at cheap valuations and sitting at near 1% interest rates. And that's what's, I guess, what markets are pricing in. Some movement. So actually, I wouldn't say some. In terms of inflows, China, largest inflow in January, like what we said, $5 billion compared to $3 billion in the US. Looks like it's still continuing. Any thoughts on Hong Kong, China? Despite what happened post DeepSeek, you're still seeing big winners happen across the board. Your semicons, and especially
yung 1211 yan.
1211,
Yeah.
my favorite car. And this is not just it's actually across the board. So even well, I wouldn't say across the board, but even in most of your big tech, you're still seeing strong movements. Xiaomi has rallied a lot since the start of the year. Any thoughts? Hong Kong, China, even Alibaba is coming back alive.
Parang classic bull markets are born in pessimism. Diba?
Is this it?
Parang
After
we've been doubting,
Well,
diba? A lot of
Is this it?
doubts in
Is this it? Second,
shots.
third.
Ayan.
Is this it?
oh, honestly, I think we have to keep an open mind.
I
Uh,
also, but
I guess some thoughts. I think it has to do with the trade wars, but parang it's not as severe as expected, maybe. That's one. So tingin ko DeepSeek din eh. Kasi parang I think that showed the world that, China's not that far behind. Diba?
I think this is probably an old story, but I don't think people really know the significance of the data that came out last week. And for the first time, UK, Spain, Ireland, and I think Germany, first time, BYD outsold Tesla in those respective countries for the first time.
Well, mahal ang Tesla eh.
It's not. Actually, to be fair to Tesla, actually, I mean, ako BYD o lahat eh. But actually, I think the ones that tinamaan talaga was Volkswagen. Because like the sales of Audi and BMW and some of the other electric car manufacturers like just fell off a cliff. So I think it's the European that's I'm sure you guys know that meme, right? That three dragon where China and US are fighting on who's AI, and then there's a meme with Europe that shows water bottle parang produce or something, parang Evian or something. So I guess it's the European manufacturers that are getting killed right now. Anyway, thoughts on this?
Well, bullish ako China eh. Yun nga, so parang tingin ko, like, they showing the world that, they can compete even in this environment. Tech-wise, they're catching up faster than people expected. And the valuations are like half of the US, maybe even less.
Less than half.
Less than half, diba?
Half. But it's always been like that, right?
Yeah, oo. So parang I guess it's also on the flip side, undeniable naman din na, geopolitics can flare up any moment eh, diba? So that's one thing.
Anyway, surprisingly enough, is that this strength in Hong Kong and China has actually been pulling outflow from other EMs. So India, Indonesia, Thailand, some parts of Malaysia. I think Malaysia is still probably the strongest. But even Philippines, right? Everybody's been Despite the inflow that we were seeing in emerging market, primarily, I'd probably say like 90+% has been heading into China. Right? Hard call. I don't know what stock to pick in China. For me, I'm just looking at it from an ETF perspective. All I know is that Hong Kong tech is cheap. I'm very scared of seeing stocks that gap down 90%. What was the stock that Black Sesame?
Black Sesame, oh.
So I'm always scared of stocks like this, right? 90% drops. These are Hong Kong stocks, ladies and gentlemen. And
Yeah, this guy just denied the rumors that they're collaborating with.
it's not just this stock, right? There was a other stock in Hong Kong, China the other day, also gapped down 90+%. So anyway, just be extra careful, ladies and
One
gentlemen.
strong sector in China is yung robotics mo. If you look at your 9660, yeah, Horizon Robotics. Yeah, 2489 ba yan? And 9880. 9880, yeah. No. Not that one.
Sorry?
9880.
Sorry?
RoboSense. And the other one is Medbot.
What?
Medbot. Yan. Microport Medbot. Parang ano to eh. Parang ISRG.
Pangalan pa lang.
Parang ISRG. So, I think legit siya. Hindi siya scam. Benefited in those robotics store. So, yeah, I think the trend on robotics, especially in the US, if you're reshoring your manufacturing, I think it started already. All factories are, obviously the new ones, will be fitted out with robotics, robotic stuff.
I
So,
think the mega trend really, coming from this year, which we talked about actually early this month, everything revolving around robots and autonomous vehicles, right? And the question is who's going to win? And I think that's the biggest question mark about what's happening today. If you're seeing some companies, start now shifting out of LiDAR into imaging, you've seen Tesla, obviously, who started it, but are they really going to win at today's valuation? Or is it just because BYD is cheap? I think BYD is today is at $80-90 billion market cap, as opposed to 1 point something trillion for Tesla. So things to be seen. BYD also announced 14 billion in AI spending, capex spending for their AI, or I assume also for autonomous vehicles. So, and then yesterday was the announcement of God's Eye. Sorry, tama ba? Also for their autonomous vehicle driving, right? So things to watch out for. I think that's the exciting part today in the space. And I feel like the winner in here is the consumer more than the company itself. But with that being said, I think the semicon should actually still do well. Margin on semicon for producing all these chips should be very high, might be.
Before I forget pala, sa US, there's one sector that I missed. I think yung mga LRN, those online schools that have STEM, because if you're someone who's going to move from one industry to another, like from one industry to AI, example, or robotics, you really need to retool yourself. And kasi maraming mga mass firing sa government and a lot of those incapable of working in those industries, di ba? So, a lot of retooling. And I checked all those schools that have STEM, which really necessary for those industries, AI, robotics, etc. This one and LOPE, LOPE. So so medyo may bull market na sa sector nila. I think will still continue.
Sure. Kasi ako ata number 1 user nito eh.
Yeah, also. Ako gumagamit na ako. Japanese.
Anyway. All right. Last but not the least, Philippines, let's do this really quick. Start of the month, I'd say it was very good for us, especially coming from the rebalancing. We only need to work 4 times, maybe 6 times in a year. Hopefully, we have one more move at the end of February for MSCI rebalancing. News, URC being taken out, great. JGS also being taken out, fantastic. What else am I missing?
How does the process in rebalancing deployment are you doing? Right after or
No, it's always at the close of the
was at the
rebalance.
close? No?
So like for March, usually our participation happens at Feb 28 or the day before at 2:45 p.m. So we've been studying these companies. Shockingly enough, what was not included, this MSCI, which was supposed to be included, was Globe. Nothing was included this quarter. Anyway, with regards to JGS, 110 billion market cap. It's 30% holding in Meralco. Meralco, not even any of its subsidiaries, is 160 billion pesos. So,
Tapos, di ba, even with the JG stock losses, they're gonna make 24 billion this year, right?
yeah, and then we're hoping that the petrochem is closed forever. That's additional 12 billion in savings. So what do you have in JGS? Meralco, and then everything else is for free. So what else is for free? URC, PLDT shares, it's BPI shares,
Bakit ba nangyayari yan? Di ba?
Stat share.
Parang-
Only thing losing right now is Petrochem. In fact, even Cebu Pacific is posting a profit. So 15 years old na lang siya eh.
Bakit ba nangyayari yan, Edmo? Mga ganyang
The last time siyang 15 is
2011.
2010.
Then,
Analyst pa ako ng CUL. So,
anong Kager yan?
that's the frustration, but I feel like it's not just them, it's everyone, right? Even the other companies, AGI, 2010. Okay? So, all these things, it's not even a lost decade anymore. It's a lost 3 decades. URC, less than its pandemic. I've never seen anything like it. I was telling this to some other people. This feels worse than the pandemic because at least the pandemic was fast. This one is killing me softly and then just continues to derate. And that's the reason why you're seeing people pagod na in the stock market. Tawa lang ako yan. Because I'm not surprised because just how much things have derated across the board. It's scary, but I like it. URC today, 6.5% cash dividend. If it falls some more, I love it. I think these are all opportunities for me. How about that?
Okay.
Anything significant happening from, or you're seeing, guys, from
double test. Parang chance eh. Looks like chance.
pagod na lahat ng tao sa stock market?
Parang no, it's more of an effect of a geopolitical issue, like in the Taiwan issue. If the parang foreign dumping regardless of valuation.
What do you say, Jason?
Actually, for me, dapat actually okay nga yung ASEAN. Kasi parang from the way I see it, China's loss is the ASEAN's gain, di ba? In the balance of global supply chains.
Diba? Dapat eh, diba? I mean, things are supposed to become cheaper for the rest of the world if that's the case.
Parang, yeah. So parang for me, this is all,
Baka initial effect no of
Hindi just
parang dumping
close
kasi.
close lang, parang tingin ko close lang.
Close.
Cross your fingers.
Brutal. So I mean, PSEI is bad, but when I look at it across the board, like it's brutal. The only companies, um, even India, after a huge rally the last 2 years, because most of the flows went to India, diba? And to Malaysia.
Yeah, I think yung India medyo high base lang kasi nga they
I think so, yeah.
outperform so much eh.
Malaysia.
Malaysia is
Brazil is only today rallying, but you look at Brazil, lost decade. So, wow, emerging markets. Kaya huwag kayong mawala ng pag-asa. Lahat naman tayo nandito.
Oo nga.
All right, okay. Last things, guys, before we end.
Ano ba?
Okay, now, we're really, really watching out. On our end, we really think that you might start to see more overshoot happen come MSCI rebalancing. Actually, the PSEI rebalancing during this day, many things gave us significant opportunity on those gap downs. And because the rebalancing was so big, you've seen companies, even on the big ones, for example, like BPI, fall 7% that day. AGI fell 20+% that day on the rebalancing. SSM Miguel fell 20+% also. And so for us, are the concerns valid? The answer is yes. I'll be honest, because volumes are down across the board. We're actually in a recession if you look at it from a volume perspective. So economy is slowing down. That one, I'm not going to argue with you if there's really challenges happening in the short term. But if you start to see overreactions like this happen, for me, these are no-brainers. And for me, like if we start to see another rebalancing scare that happens at the end of the month, and you're going to continue to see outflow, because actually it's not just outflow here, it's outflow everywhere. When I look at the MSCI Asia, not a single company was added. In fact, South Korea, I think there were like 10 stocks, Jason, that were deleted. So you're seeing outflow happen across the board. I assume it's maybe rebalancing for China, but we'll see. Nonetheless, keep your eyes open. I know it's tough out there, but for me, stick to the stocks that get paid you to wait, especially the ones with high dividend. And hopefully it pays off over time. All right. So with that, guys, I will see you 2 weeks from now. Have a good day, guys. Bye.